partner, Bernard Shaw. So I decided to check in with him to see what the world looks to him now. So what's Bernie been up to since he left? Well, for one thing, traveling around the country, giving talks and listening to people. He's also grappling with an autobiography. He calls it Slow and Lonely Work.
Thank you.
Well, I was feeling a little lonely myself on the anniversary of his leaving, so I met Bernie in a park here in Washington to catch up.
It doesn't feel like a year, but then again it does. Not having to go to work and work 12, 14, 15-hour days sometimes, and sometimes 7 days a week, and go to other states and countries takes some getting used to. After doing it for 21 years at my favorite network. But I'm trying. It's a strange thing, Judy, once you go across the Potomac and head out across this great country, people are getting on with their lives. They're not preoccupied with Washington mania. Even with the passage of the education bill, for example, it didn't create a huge ripple out there. And these are off-year elections, and people are not talking about Social Security yet or the economy or what. They're just getting on with their lives. But one thing I really sense, I sense that Americans are just kind of holding their breath, waiting. And I think it has to do with the times we're living in. We're at war.
Now you are watching, you're a viewer. Particularly you were a viewer, Bernie, on September the 11th. What was that like?
That day started as most of my days start. I got up around 9 o'clock, turned on CNN, and realized what was happening with the first plane going in and then the second one. And I just sat there on the couch in the dining room. I was transfixed for about 5 or 6 hours. And I've never cried as much as I cried that morning and that afternoon. I've never been angrier. But I was angry for what had been done to my country and fellow Americans and people, nationals from other countries. And I followed that. I mean, I was with you and all the other CNN people with that. After a while, I just went into a state of very, very deep depression. It took me a couple weeks to get over it. And then my rage and anger were renewed after what those bastards did to Danny Pearl, the Wall Street Journal reporter over there. I'm still angry. I'm still bitter.
What do you think about the way the media have covered this whole episode? I mean, obviously the media takes many forms. It's not just CNN, it's not just television, it's print as well.
I think the American media have done what they're supposed to do. I don't think the American people could want for too much more information. Now, of course, journalists and the Pentagon have always been in contention in time of war. But there's certain things I, as a journalist, don't particularly want to know or need to know. And, it really bothers me, people who criticize the FBI for these alerts or criticize the White House for these alerts. We Americans tend to be impatient. But these warnings are for a reason. And you can't expect any intelligence agency to tell you at a time certain and at a moment certain and a date certain when something is going to happen. The best you can do is get raw information, alert the people, and then the people have to stand by. But in the process, I think the American people are showing great maturity by absorbing this information and then getting on with their lives.
You obviously feel pretty strongly about this.
Oh, I do. I do.
Do you feel freer to express that now that you're not in front of the camera, day in and day out?
Now that I've left CNN, it's been a year this week, I feel the yoke is lifted. I can say whatever I want to say to whomever, and it's a great feeling. I can actually express personal opinions.
Well, we miss you, and are you going to give us permission to come back and talk to you a year from now to check in on the second year out?
Oh, of course, permission granted. I'll tell you, I don't miss the rigors of broadcast journalism, and I don't miss going into CNN every day, but I do miss the people of CNN. They're one of a kind, they're irreplaceable. And if you've worked a place for 21 years and don't miss the people you worked with, there's something wrong with you.
And we miss you, Bernie. Well, tune in next week as I head to sunny California.